Propaganda. Let me tell you guys how it works using an example. A lot of modern day propaganda is kind of in your face. It's using images and videos, but sometimes it is still written. And this article is actually a great example of what good propaganda looks like. So I'm going to walk you through this article by Politico, and we're going to go through. And I'll tell you how they kind of trick you into associating different ideas, but when you break through it, a lot of the logic in the article makes no sense. So the goal of this article is to ask a social psychologist about Gen Z and how phones are warping our lives. Already, okay, interesting article, should probably be broad. I wonder what they're going to talk about. What will they focus on? And propaganda is never going to outright tell you what their goal is. It's always hidden in layers. So they start off the article with a lot of just generalized facts. Here are some of the concerns with Gen Z. Here are some of the studies that we're seeing. But very shortly in the article, we see kind of the first bit of propaganda, which is the following. They're talking about social media and they're blaming Instagram, but they focus on TikTok. TikTok is arguably the worst consumer product ever invented, which they try to be fair and they say, okay, well, Instagram has caused damage too, but that's to make this seem like an unbiased piece of propaganda. This is what we call seeding, okay? So seeding an idea is when you just kind of mention something offhand. You don't draw too much attention to it, but you make a point so that when you bring up the idea again later, you can kind of follow through with some ideas on the propaganda. So you go through the article, you keep reading, we keep seeing statistics and different studies about young people, Gen Z specifically, and social media and phones. Although if you've noticed, we've completely gone away from really phones and are only touching on social media. So we already know the headline was a joke. We get into some general platitudes, video games' impact on young people's lives, basic things that we've all heard before and seen, nothing special. But here's a little nugget of when you start to see some of the propaganda's true intention. And it's right about midway through the article. And you see it in one of the examples that they give. When 9/11 happened, Americans generally came to the conclusion very quickly that Al-Qaeda had attacked us. But if that had happened tomorrow, we would not come to such a conclusion. What this is saying is the propaganda that they used in the past was able to fool us immediately. Now, modern day propaganda isn't working as well as we'd like it to. Because anyone who's been paying attention to anything knows a lot of stuff about 9/11 and Al-Qaeda's involvement is very fishy. But fortunately for us, people who do the propaganda are so wrapped up in their own bubble that they don't realize that for a lot of Americans who are attentive, this is actually a red flag. So I already know the bias of the writer and what some of his goals are for this article. When asked about the TikTok ban, the person speaking is very excited that Congress is going to ban it. He focuses on TikTok being owned by the Chinese, and then he gets into this little bit. Even if the psychological harm is similar to Instagram Reels and YouTube, it's about the geopolitical implications. But this article has nothing to do with geopolitics. The article was supposed to be about how these social media platforms, but actually iPhones and smartphones are affecting Gen Z. So they've looped you in, they've completely drawn you into what you think you're going to be talking about, all just to give you this idea that TikTok is now a geopolitical threat. Mind you, we should be banning behaviors. YouTube, Facebook, all do the exact same things that TikTok does. They have the same forever reels that TikTok does. They also share your information with China, but none of that's discussed. And so you're starting to get an idea of, oh, this is propaganda. And you see it all the way until the article ends. Once again, trying to seem fair and discuss how Instagram kind of does similar things to TikTok, making it seem like he's a balanced person. But then you see him trash TikTok one more time. And exactly what he says about TikTok is true of all social media. So why he singles out TikTok is very odd. And then he finishes off with, TikTok is a platform that even young people said they wish they could get rid of. So now we go back to the original intent of the article. What was it? Well, I can tell you this. It actually had nothing to do with the well-being of Generation Z. It had nothing to do with commentary on how social media is really affecting us. It had everything to do with focusing on a certain social media company and trying to seed the idea that it's okay to ban one and not others, but done so in what appears to be a very academic manner. And that's why this article is